It was the coldest night of the year. The kind of cold that does not just touch your skin, the kind that goes into your bones, the kind that makes the whole city feel empty and sharp and unkind. She was walking home alone. Her name was Nora, 24 years old. Small apartment, small job, small life, but a warm one. The kind of warmth that does not come from money. The kind that lives inside a person and refuses to go out no matter how hard the world blows. She had $12 in her pocket. Rent was due in 4 days. Her coat was old, the zipper was broken on one side and the left pocket had a hole, but it was the only coat she had. And tonight it was the only thing standing between her and the freezing dark. She was almost home. And then she heard it. A sound, small, thin, coming from the space between two buildings. She stopped. She should not have stopped. It was late. It was dark. She had $12 and a broken zipper and nowhere to be brave. But she stopped. She looked into the space between the buildings, and she saw her, a little girl, maybe 6 years old, sitting on the ground with her knees pulled to her chest. No coat, no gloves, no hat, just a thin dress and shoes that were too small and a face that was white with cold. She was not crying loudly. She was just shaking and making that small, thin sound, like a candle about to go out. Nora did not think. She went straight to her. She knelt down in the wet ground and she looked at the little girl and she said, Hey, I have you. You're okay. The girl looked up at her. Big dark eyes, frozen cheeks, a face so beautiful and so scared that it broke something clean open in Nora's chest. Where is your coat, baby? Nora whispered. The little girl did not answer. She just shook. Nora did not think twice. She did not ask herself if she could afford it. She did not think about the cold walk home or the broken zipper or the hole in the pocket. She took off her coat. She wrapped it around the little girl. She tucked it in tight. She pulled the hood up over the dark hair. She rubbed the small frozen hands between both of hers until she felt them start to warm. Better, she said. The little girl looked at her, and very slowly, very carefully, she nodded. Nora picked her up. The girl weighed almost nothing. She sat on Nora's hip and held on without a word. Nora carried her to the end of the street and stood under the light and looked both ways and tried to understand where this child had come from and where she was supposed to go. There was no one. Just the empty street. Just the cold. Just the dark. Nora stood there holding a stranger's child in her arms, in the freezing night, with no coat, and she made a decision. She was not leaving her here. She started walking. She did not know the child's name. She did not know where she lived. She did not know who was looking for her, or how many of them there were, or what kind of man was on the other end of that search. She did not know that 30 minutes earlier, an entire city had gone into silent panic over this child. She did not know that 40 men were moving through the streets right now. She did not know that the man giving the orders, cold and fast and dangerous, in a way that made grown men afraid to breathe wrong, was the kind of man whose name people said quietly, whose name opened doors and closed mouths and made problems disappear. She did not know any of that. She just knew a little girl was cold, and she had a coat. 3 days later, they found her, and nothing about her small, warm, quiet life was ever the same again. Stay with us, because this is not just a love story. This is a story about what happens when a good heart walks into a dangerous world, and the dangerous world does not know what to do with it. Her name was Nora Ellis. She was 24 years old and she lived on the 4th floor of a building where the lift had not worked since March. She had a small apartment, 1 room, 1 window, 1 radiator that made a sound like it was arguing with itself. She had a job at a laundry shop 3 streets away where she pressed clothes for people who had more money than her and less patience. She was not unhappy. That is the important thing to understand about Nora. She was not rich and she was not unhappy. She had good tea and a small collection of books and a neighbor called Mrs. Park who sometimes left food outside her door when she thought Nora looked thin. She had enough, just enough, and she had learned, in 24 years, that just enough, when you hold it right, can feel like plenty. The night it all changed was a Tuesday. She was walking home from a late shift. The city was cold, properly cold, the kind that comes in November and does not apologize. The streets were not empty, but they felt empty. Everyone was moving fast with their heads down and their collars up. Nobody was looking at anybody. Nobody stops on a cold Tuesday night in November. Nobody has time, except Nora. She heard the sound before she saw anything. She almost walked past it. Her feet were tired and her fingers were cold inside her gloves. And she was thinking about tea and the book she had left open on her bed. But she heard it. Small, thin, like a sound trying not to be heard. She stopped. She turned. She looked into the narrow space between two buildings. Dark in there, smelled like old rain. And then she saw the little girl, sitting on the ground, back against the brick wall, knees up, arms wrapped around herself, wearing a dress, a pretty dress, the kind a child wears to a party, and small black shoes. No coat, no gloves, no hat, nothing between her and the November air except thin fabric and her own thin arms. She was shaking. Nora was moving before she decided to move. She was inside that narrow space and crouching down on the wet ground and reaching out before any thought caught up with her feet. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey, I see you. I'm here." The little girl looked up. Dark eyes, black hair stuck to her cold cheeks. A face that was so still, not the stillness of calm, but the stillness of a child who has learned not to show too much. Like she had already, at 6 years old, already learned to keep things inside. But her eyes were terrified. "It's okay," Nora said. She kept her voice low. "The way you talk to something small and frightened. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to get you warm. Is that okay?" The girl did not speak, but she did not move away either. Nora pulled off her gloves first. She took the small frozen hands in both of hers and rubbed them gently, steadily, until she felt some of the cold start to leave them. Then she took off her coat. She did not think about the walk home. She did not think about the cold that immediately bit into her arms and her shoulders. She did not think about the fact that this was the only coat she owned, the one she had bought 2 winters ago from the sale rack, the one with the broken zipper she kept meaning to fix. She wrapped it around the little girl, tucked it close, pulled the hood up. The coat was too big, it swallowed the child completely, but the girl grabbed the edges of it and pulled it tight around herself with both fists, like she was never letting go. Nora smiled at her. "Better," she said. The girl looked at her for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Small, careful." "Good," Nora said. "Good. My name is Nora. Can you tell me your name?" "Nothing." Just those dark, still eyes watching her. "That's okay," Nora said. "You don't have to. Can you tell me where your mama is? Or your papa?" Still nothing. Nora looked up and down the street. No one. Just the cold and the dark and the yellow street lights. She looked back at the girl. She made a decision. She picked her up. The girl went willingly, arms going around Nora's neck, face pressing into her shoulder, small fists still holding the coat tight. She weighed almost nothing. She smelled like expensive soap and cold air. Nora carried her home. She did not know she was carrying the daughter of the most dangerous man in the city. She did not know that his name was Dante Caruso. She did not know that he had 40 men looking for this child right now. She only knew that the girl was cold, and she had warm arms. That was enough. 3 days passed. Nora called the police that night. Of course she did. She was not the kind of person who did not call the police. She sat in her small apartment with the little girl on her couch, wrapped in the old coat, drinking warm milk, watching Nora with those quiet dark eyes, and she called. They came. They were polite. They took a report. They said they would look into it. They said someone would be in touch. Nobody was in touch. First day, nothing. Second day, nothing. Nora took the girl to work with her. Mrs. Park from next door sat with her in the mornings. The girl did not speak. Not one word. Not her name. Not a yes or a no. She communicated in nods and small gestures and those dark eyes that seemed to understand everything while saying nothing. But she followed Nora. Everywhere, like a shadow. Like a small quiet shadow in a too big coat. Nora bought her a toothbrush, pink. She bought her socks. She made her eggs in the morning and soup at night, and the girl ate everything put in front of her with the careful manners of a child who had been taught how to sit at a table. Expensive soap. Perfect manners. Beautiful dress. This was not a child who had nobody. This was a child who had been lost. On the 3rd morning, Nora woke up and found the girl sitting at the window, looking out at the street below, still, patient, like she was waiting for something she already knew was coming. Nora stood in the doorway and watched her. "Are you looking for someone?" she asked quietly. The girl turned, looked at her, then turned back to the window. At 11 o'clock, they knocked. Not a gentle knock. Not a polite knock. The kind of knock that is not really asking. Nora went to the door. She looked through the small peephole. 2 men. Dark suits. Big. The kind of big that takes up space even in a hallway. Her heart moved fast. She could have not answered. She thought about not answering. Then she heard, behind her, the sound of small feet running. She turned. The little girl ran past her and stopped right in front of the door and looked up at Nora with an expression that said, "Open it." Nora opened the door. The two men looked at her. Then they looked past her at the girl. Something crossed their faces. Relief, fast and real and quickly hidden again. "Miss Ellis," one of them said, "we are here on behalf of Mr. Caruso. His daughter has been missing for 3 days. We have reason to believe Sophia." The name left Nora's mouth before she knew it. She had been calling her that in her head since the first night. It had just fit. The man blinked. "Yes, her name is Sophia." Behind the two men, the hallway shifted. They stepped aside, and he walked in, not fast, not slow. The way a man walks when he has never once in his life needed to hurry because the world rearranges itself ahead of him. Tall, dark, a face that had been handsome once and was now something more than handsome. Harder, older, carved by something heavy. Dark eyes that moved across the room in 1 second and took in everything. The apartment, the pink toothbrush on the table, the soup bowl still drying next to the sink, the old coat hanging by the door. His eyes stopped on the coat. Then they moved to Nora. She stood very straight. She did not know why. Something about the way he looked at her made her want to stand straight. "You are Nora Ellis," he said. His voice was low, even. "Yes," she said. "You found my daughter." "She found me," Nora said. "I just didn't walk away." He looked at her for a long moment. Then something moved in his face, fast and quiet, like a door opening 1 inch and then almost closing again. Behind Nora, a sound. Small feet. Fast. Sophia ran past Nora's legs and straight into the man's arms. He caught her. He held her, and something happened to him that transformed him completely. His whole body changed. The hard, careful, dangerous man was gone. What was left was just a father holding his daughter with his eyes closed and his jaw tight and his arms wrapped around her like he was checking, physically checking, that she was real. He held her for a long time. Nora looked away. It felt private. When she looked back, he was standing again, Sophia on his hip, one small fist gripping his jacket, watching Nora the way she had watched everything, with those quiet, dark, patient eyes. He looked at Nora. "I owe you something," he said. "You don't," she said. She was cold. "I had a coat. That's all." "That is not all," he said. And the way he said it made her go still. He looked around the apartment one more time. The small window, the arguing radiator, the 4 walls of a life built carefully on not very much. "I would like to repay you," he said. "That's not necessary." "I know," he said. "I would like to anyway." Nora looked at him. This man who had walked in and rearranged the air of her small apartment without trying. This man who turned into something completely different when he held his daughter. This man with eyes that had seen too much and hands that she was quite sure had done things she did not want to think about. "I don't need anything from you, Mr. Caruso," she said. He looked at her, and the corner of his mouth, just barely, just for 1 second, moved. "My daughter disagrees," he said. And Sophia, from his hip, reached out one small hand toward Nora. And waited. Nora looked at that hand. She should have not taken it. She knew that. Somewhere deep and sensible inside her, she knew that. She took it anyway. She should have let go of the hand. That is what she told herself later. Standing in her small apartment with a dangerous man watching her and a little girl's fingers wrapped around hers, she should have smiled politely and let go, and said goodbye and closed the door and gone back to her tea and her books, and her quiet, careful life. She should have. But Sophia's hand was warm now. 3 days ago it had been frozen. 3 days ago it had been blue at the fingertips, and shaking and so small inside Nora's hands that she had felt something crack open in her chest just looking at it. Now it was warm, and it was holding on. So Nora did not let go. Dante Caruso did not stay long that first day. He was not the kind of man who stayed anywhere longer than necessary. He moved through spaces like he was always already thinking about the next one. He stood in her apartment for 11 minutes, she counted, without meaning to, and in those 11 minutes he looked at everything once and said very little and communicated more than most people did in an hour. Before he left he said one thing. "I would like Sophia to see you again. She has not connected with anyone since her mother," he said. "Since her mother, the way people say things they have practiced saying, flat, careful, like if you keep your voice even enough the words cannot reach you." "When did she stop speaking?" Nora asked. His jaw moved. 8 months ago. "What happened 8 months ago?" He looked at her. A long look, the kind that was deciding something. Her mother died, he said. Nora was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry, she said. And she meant it simply and completely the way she always meant things. He nodded once. Then he looked at Sophia on his hip. The girl was still watching Nora, still holding Nora's hand even though Dante was about to leave and take her with him. There was going to be a moment in about 10 seconds where someone was going to have to let go. Sophia tightened her grip. Dante looked at his daughter. Then he looked at Nora. Would you be willing, he said slowly, to visit her? At my home, I can arrange transport. I can compensate you for your time. She has caregivers. Good ones. But she does not. He stopped. Started again. She does not hold their hands. Nora looked at the small fingers around hers. She thought about her job at the laundry shop, her $12, her rent in for days. She thought about the pink toothbrush on the table, that she had bought without thinking, and which now had nobody to use it. She thought about a little girl sitting at a window at 11 in the morning waiting patiently for something she already knew was coming. Once, Nora said, I will visit once. The car they sent was black and clean and silent. Nora sat in the back and watched the city change around her. Her neighborhood, with its narrow streets and small shops and washing lines between buildings, fell away. The streets got wider. The buildings got taller. The people on the pavements got fewer. Then there were no pavements, just a long private road. Trees on both sides. A gate that opened without anyone touching it. And then a house. Nora had not expected a house like this. She did not know what she had expected. Something cold maybe. Something that matched the man. Dark stone and sharp edges and rooms that echoed. It was not like that. It was large, very large, but it had warm light in every window. There were flowers outside the front door. Real ones, well kept. There was a bicycle on the side path, small, purple, with a basket on the front. That could only belong to one person. A woman met her at the door, older, kind face. She introduced herself as Maria. She said she ran the house. She said Sophia had been awake since 6 that morning and had stood at the front window since 9. Nora followed Maria inside. The inside of the house was the same, warm. Books on shelves. Real ones, read ones, with cracked spines. A kitchen that smelled like something had been baking. Flowers again, inside too. And on the walls, photographs. A woman with dark hair and Sophia's eyes laughing at something off camera. Sophia as a baby. Sophia at the beach. A family that had been whole once. Nora stopped in front of one photograph. The woman in it was beautiful, young, mid-20s maybe, laughing so hard her eyes were closed, one hand reaching toward the camera like she was trying to stop whoever was taking the picture. Sophia's mother. Maria said quietly behind her. Nora looked at the photograph for a moment. Then she heard feet on the stairs. Fast feet, small feet. Sophia appeared at the bottom of the staircase, hair brushed, dressed in a yellow sweater and gray trousers. She looked at Nora and went completely still for 1 second, like she was checking, making sure Nora was real. Then she crossed the hallway in 6 running steps and wrapped both arms around Nora's waist and held on. Nora put her arms around her. She looked at Maria. Over the top of Sophia's head, Maria was pressing her lips together, blinking fast. She has not done that, Maria said quietly, with anyone. In 8 months. Nora stayed 3 hours that day. She had planned 1 hour. Maybe 2. She and Sophia sat in the big warm kitchen and Nora drew things badly. She had never been good at drawing, and Sophia watched and then took the pen and corrected them. She drew a cat with extraordinary detail and looked up at Nora after with something in her face that was almost pride, almost a smile. Not quite. Almost. Nora showed her a hand game she had learned as a child, the complicated clapping kind with a pattern. Sophia watched twice. Then she held up her hands. They practiced it until they had it right. When they finally got all the way through without a mistake, Sophia put both hands over her mouth and her eyes went bright and Nora thought, there you are. There is the little girl in there. She was in the middle of reading aloud from a book she had found on the shelf when she heard footsteps. Not Maria's footsteps. Different, slower, deliberate. She looked up. Dante stood in the kitchen doorway. He had his jacket off, sleeves rolled to the elbow. He looked like he had come from work, whatever work meant for him, and had not meant to come in here. Like his feet had brought him before his brain signed off on it. He looked at his daughter. Sophia was leaning against Nora's arm, completely relaxed, the way a child leans when they feel safe. Her eyes were on the book. Something moved across Dante's face. It was not a small thing. It was large and fast and he covered it quickly, but Nora saw it. She was watching. He looked at Sophia for a long moment. Then he looked at Nora. She ate lunch, Nora said quietly. All of it. His throat moved. She usually doesn't, he said. I know. Maria told me. Nora kept her voice low so she did not break the soft quiet of the room. She ate all of it today. He stood there another moment. Then he pulled out a chair across the table and sat down. He did not say anything. He did not ask to join them. He just sat. Nora looked at him for 1 second. Then she looked back at the book. She kept reading. And Dante Caruso, who sat at tables where men were afraid to breathe, sat in his own kitchen and listened to a girl from a small apartment read a story to his daughter in a soft, steady voice, and for the first time in 8 months, the house felt different. Not empty. Not echoing. Something else. Something it had not felt in a very long time. At 5 o'clock Nora said she had to go. Sophia looked up at her. No expression. Just those eyes. Nora crouched down in front of her. I'll come back, she said. Sophia looked at her. I promise, Nora said. A long pause. Then, very slowly, Sophia reached out and touched Nora's face. Just 2 fingers. Gentle. Like she was checking if Nora was real again. Like she needed to be sure. Nora did not move. Then Sophia dropped her hand. And she turned. And she walked up the stairs without looking back. Like the matter was settled. Dante walked Nora to the door. They stood on the front step. The afternoon was cold. The trees along the road were bare. The purple bicycle was still on the path. Same time Thursday, he said. She had said once. She had promised once. But she had also promised Sophia she would come back. Same time Thursday, she said. He nodded. She started down the path. Then she stopped, turned around. Mr. Caruso, she said. He looked at her. Eat dinner with her tonight. Just dinner. Nothing else. Just sit there and eat. He looked at her for a long moment. She needs you, Nora said simply. Not the caregivers. Not this house. You. She did not wait for his answer. She walked to the car. Behind her she heard the front door close. She did not know if he would listen. She did not know that inside the house, Dante Caruso stood in his hallway for a full minute. Then he walked to the kitchen. And he told Maria he would be eating dinner at home tonight. She did not know what was already moving in the dark. She did not know that someone had seen the black car outside her building, had taken a photograph, had sent it to a man who collected information about Dante Caruso the way other people collected debts, carefully, patiently, waiting for the right moment to spend it. She did not know that by Thursday, her name would already be on a list. She did not know that in Dante's world, kindness was a weakness, and weakness was an invitation. She went back on Thursday. Same time. Same black car. Same long road with trees on both sides. Same gate that opened without being touched. But this time Sophia was already at the front door when the car pulled in, standing on the step in a red coat and white shoes, hands clasped in front of her, patient, waiting, like she had arranged herself there carefully and was not going to move until Nora arrived. Nora got out of the car. Sophia looked at her. Then she stepped down from the front step, walked down the path, and took Nora's hand, just like that. No running this time. No urgency. Just a small calm decision, like it was already settled. Like Nora belonged here and Sophia was simply walking her in. Nora looked down at her. Hello to you too, she said. Sophia looked up, and the corner of her mouth moved. Not a smile. Almost a smile. The kind of almost that meant the real thing was getting closer. They walked inside together. It became a pattern. Tuesday and Thursday. Every week. The black car at 9:30. The long road. The warm house. Sophia waiting, sometimes at the door, sometimes at the top of the stairs. Once sitting cross-legged in the middle of the hallway with a book open in her lap like she had simply decided to wait there, and that was that. They fell into a routine the way people do when something feels right without needing to be explained. Mornings were for drawing. Sophia was extraordinary at it, precise and detailed and completely certain about every line, the way she was certain about everything she decided to do. She drew birds mostly, different kinds. She would finish one and hold it up for Nora to look at, and Nora would say something about it, and Sophia would consider the response very seriously and then begin the next one. Afternoons were for reading. Nora read aloud and Sophia listened the way she listened to everything, completely. Not fidgeting, not distracted. Like listening was something she took seriously. And sometimes, not always, not on a schedule, Dante would appear. Never announced. Never making a thing of it. He would simply be there. in the doorway of the kitchen. At the other end of the table, once, outside in the garden, sitting on the low wall near Sophia's bicycle, jacket off, face turned up to the thin winter sun, eyes closed. Just there, like he had walked somewhere quiet without thinking about it and that somewhere happened to be near them. Nora did not make it strange. She just continued whatever she was doing. And slowly, so slowly she almost did not notice it happening, the space between them stopped being formal. He started talking during the afternoon reading. Small things. A comment about the book. A question about something she had said. She answered without looking up from the page and he responded, and Sophia sat between them and listened to both of them the way she listened to everything, completely, seriously, like she was collecting information. He ate dinner with Sophia every night now. Maria told Nora that on the third Thursday, eyes bright, voice low, like she was reporting something almost miraculous. Every night, always at the table. Sometimes he talked, sometimes he did not. But he was there. Sophia had started eating properly. Sophia had started sleeping through the night. Sophia had started, almost smiling. Nora did not take credit for any of it. She said to Maria, she just needed someone to show up consistently. Children do not need miracles. They need people who come back when they say they will. Maria looked at her in a way that was hard to read. You are good at this, Maria said. Being someone who comes back. Nora shrugged. It's not hard. For some people, Maria said quietly, it is the hardest thing in the world. What he told no one. That same night Dante sat in his office on the top floor of the building and looked at the city below. He had 3 phones. 2 of them had rung in the last hour. Business, always something that needed his attention or his decision or his name behind it. He had answered both. He had dealt with both. The third phone, the private one, sat on the desk and he looked at it. He thought about what she had said. I am not leaving. In his world people left. That was the thing nobody said plainly but everybody understood. People left when things got complicated. They left when the cost got too high. They weighed what they had against what it was costing them and they made a calculation and they left. Even people he had trusted. Even people he had known for years. They all, eventually, made the calculation. Nora had made the calculation in about 45 seconds and landed on the wrong side of it, the side that cost more. That was harder. That put her in a photograph on Marco Ricci's desk. She had made that calculation and not even seemed to notice it was a hard one. He did not know what to do with that. He was a man who always knew what to do. He picked up the third phone. He called his head of security. He said 3 words, double it, her building. Then he sat back, and he thought about a girl in a frayed blue jacket getting into a black car. And he thought, I will not let anything touch her. He thought it the way he thought all the things that mattered to him. Not loudly, not with drama. Just completely. The envelope everyday morning. Nora walked out of her building at 7:15. Same as always. Same blue jacket. Same bag. Same route to the laundry shop. On the front step of her building there was an envelope. No name on it. Just left there. Clean white. Like it had been placed, not dropped. She picked it up. She opened it. Inside was a single photograph of her, taken yesterday. Outside the house on the long road with trees on both sides. She was at the gate, smiling at something. She remembered what Maria had said, something funny as Nora was leaving. She was smiling and not looking at the camera and she had no idea the photograph was being taken. Written on the back of the photograph in small neat letters, how long before he lets you go. Nora stood on her front step in the cold morning and looked at that sentence. Her hands were steady. She noticed that. She had expected them to shake and they were not shaking. She put the photograph back in the envelope. She took out her phone. She called Dante. He answered on the second ring. There is an envelope, she said. On my front step. I think you need to see it. A pause. Don't move, he said. I will be there in 12 minutes. He was there in 9. The conversation on the Steve looked at the photograph. She watched his face while he looked at it. He was very controlled, always very controlled, but she was learning to read the small things. The way his jaw set. The way his eyes went still and flat and cold in a way they were not cold with her or with Sophia. He was angry. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind. The kind that goes somewhere deep and stays there and does not leave. He put the photograph back in the envelope. He looked at her. Come to the house, he said. I have work, Nora. I have work. Dante, I have 3 early shifts this week that I cannot miss. My rent, I will cover. No, she said. Firmly, you will not cover my rent. I cover my rent. He looked at her. Something crossed his face, a frustration, and also, underneath it, something that was almost respect. Then let me walk you to the laundry shop, he said. She looked at him. Dante Caruso, in a suit that cost more than her monthly salary, offering to walk her 3 streets to the laundry shop where she pressed other people's clothes. Okay, she said. They walked. He did not speak for half the journey. She did not push him. She had learned that he thought before he talked, really thought, not just paused, and that what came out when he did speak was worth the wait. He is escalating, Dante said, halfway there. Ricci, the photograph at your door, he wants you to panic. He wants you to call me panicking. He wants to see how I react when you are frightened. I am not panicking, she said. I know, he said. But I am thinking, she said, about what this costs you, having me connected to you. If I am something he can use, you are not a piece to be used. Dante said, sharp, quiet, like the sentence had cut him before it came out. She stopped walking. He stopped too. They stood on the pavement outside the dry cleaners next door to her work. 2 people who should not exist in each other's lives standing on an ordinary street in the early morning. What are you going to do? She asked. He looked at her. I am going to end it, he said, simply. The way he said things that were not simple at all. What does that mean? It means that Marco Ricci made the mistake of making this personal, he said. He should have stayed with business. Business I can negotiate. This, he stopped. This I will not negotiate. Nora looked at him for a long moment. Don't do anything. That costs you too much, she said. He looked at her like that was the strangest sentence anyone had ever said to him. I press clothes and I bake bread on weekends and I have a cat named Biscuit, she said. I am not worth a war. That, he said quietly, is not your decision. He held the door of the laundry shop open for her. She went inside. She worked her full shift, and outside, she did not see them. But they were there, 3 men who were not going anywhere. What was already in motion. She did not know what Dante did that day. She did not know about the 3 meetings, the 2 phone calls, the message that was sent to Marco Ricci through a third party, measured, quiet, final. She did not know that Ricci received the message and sat with it for 1 hour and then made a decision, the wrong decision. She did not know that the wrong decision had already been set in motion by the time she got home from work, that it had a shape and a direction and a date. She did not know that the date was Sunday. She only knew that Sunday morning she woke up to her phone ringing. Dante, real number, not unknown. He had never called from his real number before. She answered. I need you to come to the house, he said. Now. Maria will bring Sofia to you. I need you to stay with her. His voice was the controlled one, the flat, careful one, but underneath it, just underneath it, she heard something she had not heard from him before, something that sounded very much like fear. Not for himself. Dante, she said. What is happening? A pause. I will explain everything when this is done, he said. Right now I need to know you and Sofia are in the same place. That is all I need right now. Nora was already out of bed, already moving. I will be ready in 5 minutes, she said. 3, he said. Please, she had never heard him say please before. She was ready into ... everything was about to break. She could feel it the way you feel a storm before it arrives. Not the rain, not the thunder, just the air changing, the sky going a different color, the world going quiet in a way that is not peaceful. She felt it when Dante said please. She felt it when the car came in 2 minutes instead of 3. She felt it when she walked into the house and found Maria holding Sofia in the hallway. Sofia in her pajamas, hair unbrushed, face confused, and Maria looked at Nora with eyes that were trying very hard to be calm, and not managing it. Something was happening, something that Dante was handling alone. Something he did not want her to see. But here is the thing about Nora Ellis, the girl from the small apartment, the girl with the broken zipper coat, the girl who stopped on a cold Tuesday night when every sensible person kept walking. She did not look away from hard things. She never had, and she was not about to start now. The house at 7 Maria had made tea. That was the first thing Nora noticed. The kitchen table had tea and toast and Sofia's favorite jam, the red one, the one she pointed at very specifically every morning, and it was all arranged carefully. Carefully, the way people arrange things when they are trying to make everything look normal and their hands need something to do. Nora sat at the table. Sofia climbed onto the chair beside her. She was still confused. Nora could see it in the small crease between her eyebrows, the way she kept looking at the door, but she settled when Nora's hand found hers under the table. Children know when to trust. That is something adults forget. Children do not read words or explanations. They read presence. They read hands and voices and whether someone's breathing is steady. Nora's breathing was steady. So Sophia settled. Where is your papa? Nora asked her quietly. Sophia looked at the door. He is coming back, Nora said. Not a question, a fact. Said plainly, said simply. Said in the voice she used. When she meant it completely. Sophia looked at her. Nora squeezed her hand. Maria sat across from them and drank her tea and looked at the window, and outside the morning was gray and cold and the trees along the road were bare and still. Nobody talked. Sometimes that is the right thing. What was happening elsewhere Nora did not know the details. She found them out later, some of them, the ones Dante chose to tell her. The rest she put together from small things. A word here, a silence there, the way certain people looked at her afterward with something in their eyes that was different from before. This is what she understood. Marco Ricci had made his move on Sunday morning, early, before the city was awake. He had sent people, not to Nora, not directly, not yet, but to something that mattered to Dante, a meeting, an arrangement, an act of destruction that was designed to send one message. I am not afraid of you. It was a mistake. Not because Dante was more powerful, though he was. Not because Dante had more people, though he did. It was a mistake because Marco Ricci had spent 2 years studying Dante Caruso the businessman, Dante Caruso the strategist, Dante Caruso who moved chess pieces across a city with patience and intelligence and cold calculation. He had not studied the other one, the one underneath, the one that had sat in a kitchen and listened to a girl read a story, the one that ate dinner with his daughter every night now, the one that had called at 10 p.m. and said reasonable like it was a concession. He was glad to make. Marco Ricci had made something personal, and the version of Dante Caruso that dealt with personal things was not the chess player. It was something older, something that did not calculate. Something that simply decided. 9am Sophia had finished her toast. She was drawing now. Birds, as usual. She had taken the pen from Nora's bag without asking, which Nora took as a good sign. You do not take things from people you are not comfortable with. You do not settle into chairs and draw birds when you are frightened. She was still confused, still glancing at the door. But she was drawing. Nora was watching her draw and thinking about nothing in particular, the specific kind of nothing you think when you are waiting and you have decided to wait calmly. When she heard it, the front door. Sophia heard it too. The pen stopped, footsteps in the hallway, more than one person, voices, low, quick, and then stopping, then one set of footsteps. Coming to the kitchen, Dante appeared in the doorway. He looked different. His jacket was gone. His shirt had no collar. His face was tired in a way she had not seen before, not the ordinary tired of a long day but the specific tired of a man who has been carrying something very heavy and has just put it down. He looked at Sophia first. The girl was already halfway out of her chair. He crossed the kitchen in 3 steps and crouched down, and Sophia wrapped her arms around his neck and he held her the same way he had held her that first day in Nora's apartment. Eyes closed, jaw tight, checking that she was real. Nora looked at the table. She heard him say something to Sophia, very quietly, in Italian. She did not know Italian, but she knew the shape of it. The rhythm of a parent telling a child everything is fine now. Everything is okay. I am here. After a moment he stood up. He looked at Nora. Are you hurt? She asked, directly. No preamble. No, he said. Is it over? A pause. Ricci will not be a problem, he said. She did not ask what that meant. Some things she had decided she did not need to know. That was its own kind of line, not ignorance, but a deliberate choice about which truths belonged to her and which ones belonged to his world and would only hurt her to carry. Good, she said. He looked at her for a moment. Then he pulled out the chair across from her and sat down. Maria appeared silently with more tea. She poured it and disappeared again. Sophia climbed back into the chair beside Nora and picked up her pen and went back to her bird like this was all completely normal, which Nora thought, for Sophia, perhaps it was. Perhaps this was what the child had always known. That storms came, that her father went into them, that the question was never if he came back but only when. What was new, what Sophia had not had before, was someone to sit at the table and wait with her. Nora thought about that. She thought about what Maria had said. Being someone who comes back. For some people it is the hardest thing in the world. What he said. They sat in the kitchen for a long time. Sophia drew. Nora drank her tea. Dante sat across from them and did not speak for a while, and that was fine. She had learned his silences. This one was not cold. It was not closed. It was thinking. Finally he said, not looking at her, looking at Sophia, I am going to ask you something and I want you to think about it before you answer. All right, she said. Now he looked at her. Stay, he said. Not Tuesday and Thursday. Not visits. Stay. Here. You and your cat, Biscuit. You and Biscuit. His mouth moved slightly. Sophia needs. She needs someone who comes every day. Someone consistent. I cannot give her that the way you can. I am always, there is always something. And she needs, Dante, Nora said. He stopped. Is this about Sophia? She said quietly. He looked at her. A long moment. No, he said. Not only. The kitchen was very still. Sophia was pretending to draw. Nora could tell she was pretending because the pen had not moved in 45 seconds, but her head was slightly tilted in their direction, listening. Children always listen. They just pretend not to, so adults will keep talking. I don't know what I am offering you, he said. And she could hear how much it cost him to say that. This man who always knew, who always had the answer before the question was finished. I don't know how to do this. I have not, he stopped. Started again. Since Sophia's mother. I have not. I stopped expecting to want things for myself. I was only keeping things running. Just keeping it all running. I know, she sighed. And then a girl posted a stupid advertisement at midnight. It was not stupid, she said. It was a little stupid, he said. She almost smiled. And I answered it, he said. And I don't know why. I have not done a thing I could not explain in years. Everything I do I can explain. Every decision. Every move. And then I answered an advertisement from a stranger for $200 and I put on a suit and I went to a wedding and an old woman held my hand and, he stopped. Nora waited. And I felt like a person, he said. Very quietly, not a name, not a position, just a person at a table with someone who talked to me like I was. He did not finish the sentence. Nora looked at him across the table. This large, complicated, dangerous, pasta-making, 6-50-8-am man, who had sat in a kitchen and listened to her read, who had eaten dinner with his daughter every single night, who had said please on the phone this morning in a voice she would not forget. I have $12 in savings, she said. He blinked. I mean right now. Approximately $12. My rent is manageable but only just. I have a cat who sheds on everything and opinions about most things and I will not stop working because I need to work. It is important to me, so if you are imagining some version of this where I just live in your house and do nothing, that is not the version I am available for. He was looking at her like she was something he had not encountered before and could not quite categorize. And I will not disappear into your world, she said. I will not become something that only exists inside these walls. I have a life, small, but mine, and I am keeping it. I know, he said. And I need you to talk to me, she said. Not everything. I understand there are things I don't need to know and I am not asking for those. But the things that affect me, the photographs, the rixes, whatever comes next, I need you to talk to me like I am a person who can handle the truth. Not someone you protect by keeping in the dark. You can handle more truth than most people I know, he said. Yes, she said simply. I can. He looked at her. Is that a yes? He said. I have more conditions. His mouth moved. Of course you do. Sophia gets a real childhood, she said. Whatever you do, whatever the world is. She gets school and friends and birthday parties and the purple bicycle and Tuesday afternoons where nothing dangerous exists. Agreed. And Biscuit gets a proper bed. Not the floor. The cat will have whatever the cat needs. He is particular, she said. I will speak to him personally, Dante said. She laughed. She did not mean to. It just came out, the same way it always came out with him. Real and warm and completely unplanned. And Dante Caruso sat back in his chair and listened to it. And something in him, something that had been locked for so long he had almost forgotten it was there, opened. Not a little, all the way. The word it was Sophia who ended it. They had been sitting there, the three of them, in the warm kitchen, in the quiet, in the particular stillness that comes after something large has passed. When Sophia put down her pen, she looked at her drawing. Then she looked at Nora. Then she looked at her father. Then she looked at Nora again. And, in a voice that was small and slightly rough from 8 months of not being used, a voice that was the most important sound in that house in a very long time, she said one word. Stay. The kitchen went completely silent. Maria, who had appeared in the doorway, with the dish towel in her hands, made a sound and pressed the dish towel to her mouth. Dante went absolutely still. Nora looked at Sophia. Sophia looked back at her. Direct, serious, certain. The way she was certain about everything she decided. Stay, she said again, firmer this time, like she was making sure Nora had heard it correctly. Nora's eyes burned. She did not look away. She held Sophia's gaze and she nodded, slow and steady and completely certain. Okay, she said. I'll stay. Sophia picked up her pen. She went back to her bird, like the matter was settled. Because it was. After Maria cried in the hallway, she did not try to hide it. She stood with the dish towel and cried quietly and did not apologize for it. Dante stood in the kitchen doorway and looked at his daughter drawing. He stood there for a long time. Then he came back to the table. He sat down. He did not say anything for a moment. He looked at his hands on the table. Then he looked at Nora. 8 months, he said. I know, she said. I thought. He stopped. His voice was not controlled. Just slightly, not controlled. I thought she might never. The doctors said she might never. She did, Nora said. He nodded, looked at Sophia, looked at the drawing, a bird with extraordinary wings. Detailed and precise. She said stay, he said. She said stay, Nora agreed. He looked at Nora. And for a moment, just a moment, the careful controlled face was completely gone. What was underneath it was simply a man, tired and grateful, and something else that had no name yet but was growing. Something that had started in a laundry-smelling apartment with a broken zipper coat and an advertisement posted at midnight. Something that was going to take time to understand, but they had time. 6 months later, she did not move in the next day. That was not how Nora did things. She went home. She talked to Biscuit. She thought carefully. She made a list, actual list, on paper, of what she needed and what she was willing to bend on and what was not negotiable. She went back on Tuesday and Thursday, and then Saturday to and then one day in February, 4 months after the coat, 3 months after the photograph on the doorstep, 2 months after Sophia said her first word in the kitchen. She arrived with 2 boxes and Biscuit in a carrier, and Maria opened the front door and held it wide and said, absolutely nothing except his bed is in the study. Very soft. I chose it myself. She worked. She kept her shifts at the laundry shop. She took a second job, teaching reading to children at the community center 2 streets from the house. It was small and it paid very little and she loved it completely. Sophia went to school, a real school, with other children. She still did not talk very much, but she talked a little more every week. Precise words, chosen carefully, meaning exactly what they said. Like her father, Dante ate dinner at the kitchen table every night that he was home. Not always. His world did not stop. The danger did not disappear. It changed shape, as it always does in lives like his. But he came home, and when he came home he sat at the table. Sometimes he talked. Sometimes he just sat. Sometimes Nora read aloud and Sophia drew birds, and he sat with his coffee and his tired eyes and his face that was, slowly, learning to be less closed. He was not a simple man to love. She had known that from the parking lot, from the first time she saw his face go still and flat and cold in a way that had nothing to do with her. He carried things that were heavy and old and not going away. But he came home. He told her the truth when it mattered. He said please sometimes now, not just in emergencies. And once, on a cold Thursday morning in March when she was standing at the kitchen window with her tea looking at Sophia's purple bicycle, he came up behind her and said, very quietly, in the voice he used for things that mattered, you are the best thing that has walked into this house. She did not turn around. I walked into this house because of a 6-year-old girl in your coat, she said. My coat, he said. At that point it was my coat. You gave it away. She needed it more. He was quiet for a moment. Yes, he said. She did. Nora looked at the purple bicycle. She thought about a cold Tuesday night. A thin sound between 2 buildings. A choice that took no time at all because it was not really a choice, it was just who she was. A girl who stopped. A girl who had a coat and a child who was cold and no space in her chest for the calculation. She had given a coat away. And gotten this. A complicated, difficult, beautiful, dangerous, warm this. Dante, she said. Yes, your pasta is getting cold. A pause. I made it 10 minutes ago, he said. I know, she said. Stop standing there being sentimental and go put it on the table. He said nothing, but when she turned around he was almost smiling, the real kind, the kind that reached all the way to those old eyes. The last thing that evening Sophia finished her drawing. She had been working on it for 3 days, longer than usual, more careful than usual. She would not show anyone until it was done. She put it on the table at dinner. It was not a bird. It was 3 people, drawn with the detail and precision of a child who sees everything. A tall man with dark hair, a woman who was small but somehow took up the right amount of space, and between them, holding both their hands, a little girl. Under it, in careful letters, Sophia had written 2 words. My family. Nobody said anything for a moment. Then Nora reached out and took Sophia's hand on one side, and Dante reached out and took her other hand, and Sophia looked at both of them, and smiled. The real one, the one that had been waiting, patient and certain and completely sure, for exactly the right moment to come out. It had been worth the wait.